we just finished off segment 1 where we spoke about, the NBA season coming back. We talk about coaches that have going to be moving about the place and kind of leading new teams. We spoke about the salary cap not shifting. We spoke about the NBA draft coming off, and of course the off-season changes that we expect from players moving from team to team and trying to settle into new digs and trying to enhance their legacies in new places. So this is really what this NBA offseason is about. Who's going to move and who's going to stay, really. And this segment 2 right now is about player movement. So what I would like to start off with, of course, what's been in the news the last couple of days. The Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets with team leaders James Harden and Russell Westbrook, former MVPs, former scoring title players in the NBA, and they are the 2 lead dogs on the Houston Rockets. And we seem to have a problem in Houston, and I'm not going to go into the cliche Houston phrase. We all know what that is, where a problem occurs, but we have some infighting, and it's been said across the league that Russell Westbrook has wanted out and has demanded a trade. We've had his former teammate Kendrick Perkins mentioning that he's not the type of person to want to speak out. He's Russell Westbrook, as we saw in Oklahoma City, is very loyal, and he tends to kind of handle his business behind the scenes. But it has come out allegedly that he wants to trade from the Houston Rockets. He wants to return to a role as more of a floor general, like he had in Oklahoma City, where he had these outstanding triple-double seasons and being the floor general, leading the team. And of course he can't do that with James Harden, because James Harden is a very needs a lot of volume, needs the ball, needs to be able to shoot and dribble around and kind of create his tempo to kind of create the baskets that he does. So apparently he wants out, which is really shocking. These guys was, when you looked at them on the court last season, they were dancing around, they were high-fiving, they were jumping about, pre-game they were doing all of their dance routines and everything. They seemed like they were so happy to play with each other again, from having played on the Oklahoma City Thunder together. They were looking forward to take that team forward, as James Harden has tried to do for the last couple of seasons, and it just wasn't successful. It just blew up in their face again. Russell Westbrook with his shooting woes, and everything else, and Mike D'Antoni being a coach who had been there for a while trying to put this all together, it just flamed out in their face, losing in the second round to the Los Angeles Lakers. So what's really going to happen with the Houston Rockets? And when I heard the news about them wanting to change what's going on with the Houston Rockets, I was like, why do you guys want to change? You are 2 MVP caliber players, 2 former MVPs. This team is not going to change, or it hasn't changed at the moment. It's still the same team. You still have PJ Tucker. You still have, Austin Rivers. You still have, the dogs, the guys who played really hard for James Harden and Mike D'Antoni on that team. It's unchanged. And you guys thought that team was worthy of pushing, anyone in the West to go forward. So the team is unchanged. Yes, there's been a coaching change, which was initially said that they signed off on. Apparently they were okay with Stephen Silas being the new coach, based on the reports that came out after he was hired. So what is the issue? This is the time for you guys to kind of pull up your big boy pants and be the MVPs and lead the team, to a better position in the West and in the standings. And now there's infighting. We had Stephen A. Smith, who said, based on his sources, that Russell Westbrook has asked out, and apparently James Harden might actually look to ask out as well. So one of the contenders for the last 4 or 5 years in the West is probably about to be dismantled, which is not what Stephen Silas signed up for, because when he was interviewed for the job, he came in thinking that he was going to have James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and he told them that, you know, this is why I took this job. So he's probably going to be in a situation where he's going to be waiting just as much as us to see what's going to happen with that team. But it's just really disappointing, and it kind of just flags what's the way players think in this era. In the 90s, you know, in the 80s, everyone will say the yesteryear eras of the NBA, you know, players would just, you know, deal with what their situations are. Coaching changes, player changes, they don't care, they're going to just go at it. You know, of course, yes, there are players who wanted better situations and asked out or asked for more money and all that sort of stuff, but it just seemed like such a 2020 thing that, you know, they're unhappy with this situation and they're starting to, you know, act out and kind of be a little bit like petulant children, you know. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Rockets. You know, it's been said now recently, as I mentioned earlier on, this Russell Westbrook and Harden apparently had signed off on Stephen Silas being the head coach of the team. Now it's being said that they both wanted Ty Lue for the job, but of course Ty Lue wasn't given the job in Houston, and he ended up taking the job in Los Angeles for the Clippers. He's now the coach after being the assistant coach there under Doc Rivers. They both wanted Ty Lue, but because that didn't happen, Stephen Silas came. Originally they signed off on it, but now they're not too pleased, so they're not sure what the direction is with the Rockets, and they're a bit upset. And now, you know, Russell Westbrook kind of wants to get out. So yeah, that's one set of drama coming up for this season, and change potentially that's coming. We have rumors of Russell Westbrook possibly going to the Clippers for Paul George. You know, Russell Westbrook and Robert Covington being traded to the Clippers for Paul George. Paul George going to the Clippers from Oklahoma City 2 seasons before, you know, that seemed like a done deal. The Clippers were going to be contenders, you know, they were going to be champions, and Paul George was going to be, you know, tremendous with the Clippers. But, you know, he's kind of like in trade discussions now, or at least in trade rumors now, and, you know, he could possibly be on the move, because apparently, allegedly, Kawhi Leonard has said that he's looking for a floor general. Does he want Russell Westbrook as his floor general, as his point guard, as his upgrade at a point guard? You know, that's left to be seen. But the Clippers making a change and possibly trading Paul George, that'll be interesting. We also heard interest from the Knicks, the Magic, and the Detroit Pistons for Russell Westbrook. Of course, they're looking for a dynamic guard. All these teams are a bit deficient where that's concerned. The Knicks, of course, have R.J. Barrett, the rookie from last year, who played creditably well, but, you know, he wasn't, you know, awe-inspiring by any means. And, you know, I suppose him playing alongside Russell Westbrook will be interesting. The Magic have Markelle Fultz, who is still working on his game, but he's done well last year. I'd be really surprised if the Magic give up on Markelle Fultz so early. I think he's been really good. Of course, he doesn't shoot really well, and Russell Westbrook doesn't either. So just give Fultz a chance, but we'll see what happens. And Detroit has Derrick Rose, but Derrick Rose is a bit injured, you know, all the time and prone. But the last couple of seasons with Minnesota and Detroit, you know, he's reinvigorated his career, and he's been injured, but he's played really well. So let's see what happens with Russell Westbrook and where he ends up. And we've also heard there have been rumors about James Harden potentially going to the Nets. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about the Nets being interested in James Harden, and, you know, following Mike D'Antoni. So could you imagine James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, the ball? We only play with one ball on the basketball court. How the hell is that gonna work? But, you know, that's just a super team waiting to happen, and probably problems waiting to happen where that's concerned. James Harden and Kyrie Irving, we don't know what's going to happen there, but that's going to be interesting. And also, James Harden has been linked to the Sixers with a potential of Ben Simmons moving to the Rockets. Of course, we know Daryl Morey, who is the GM, the lead executive for The Houston Rockets had left his job after Mike D'Antoni left the Rockets, and he picked up the role in Philadelphia, and now he's running the show with Doc Rivers. And there's been lots of conversations about him, who he loved James Harden in Houston. We've seen all the tweets and all of the interviews where he said, there's probably no argument that James Harden is probably the best scorer of our generation, even better than Michael Jordan, or he should be in the conversation with Michael Jordan as one of the best scorers we've ever seen. And if you look at advanced analytics, Harden is that. So Daryl Morey is a major proponent of James Harden, so he would be looking to make those sorts of trades. And there's always been a lot of fit issues and questions about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons not wanting to shoot threes, and and Daryl Morey is a big proponent of three ball shooting and all of that. So it'll be really interesting to see if he does pull the trigger and trade away Ben Simmons, who has a lot of potential, and everyone says is kind of like LeBron light, the way he plays with his size and his passing ability. Will they trade him for James Harden? It's left to be seen. November 20th, the free agency market opens, so we'll see where Ben Simmons and everyone else ends up. And we have a few other ones that have been mentioned in the media. We've seen loads of tweets and reports from all over the analytics world, and I like to shout out my guys, Jan Seafley, who of course who's been on this show before, Darrell Louis, who's another really close friend of mine, and Adrian Griffith, guys who have sent me news headlines about player movements and rumors and everything. And of course, rumors are just rumors. They might never come to fruition, but it's just really interesting to see, and it's kind of one of the features of the off season. Who's talking about what, who's gonna go where, sort of thing. And they've sent me some interesting rumors that are circulating in this off season, so we'll see which ones of them become true. We have Kevin Love to the Warriors. The Warriors are looking for a big, as we know, and Kevin Love, another 3-point shooting big. It's going to be a 5-out team over there for the Warriors if they go that route with Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green could hit a 3 every now and then, potentially Kevin Love. Who's the 4? We don't even know. Eric Pascal or somebody. They have enough players who can shoot the 3 ball, and it makes them very dangerous where that's concerned. If they were to get Kevin Love, that would be really interesting. How healthy is he? We don't know, but him playing for a contender, we saw what he could do with the Cavs as a third wheel, offensively. He is still really good, and he's an excellent rebounder. Kevin Love was the last player in the league, I think, to have a 30 point 30 rebound season when he was with the Timberwolves, and it's been a while since he's done that, and he's not that dominant on the boards anymore as he was, but he's still very capable. So look out for Kevin Love, where he might end up. We've seen we've seen some other rumors of Dennis Schroeder from the Oklahoma City Thunder possibly ending up with the Lakers. The Lakers are looking at bolstering their championship defense run, and they're looking for a solid point guard, which just seems nonsensical because Rajon Rondo, although he's been injured, he played sublime. He was awesome this postseason. He's just brought back the playoff Rondo that we all know and love from the Celtics days. But Rondo is part of rumors as well. Apparently the Clippers are looking at Rondo because, of course, there have been talks about Kawhi Leonard wanting an upgrade at point guard over Patrick Beverley, maybe getting him off the bench to come off the bench, or trading him altogether. But Kawhi Leonard apparently has said he wants a new point guard. So Rondo is being looked at, and which could open the doors for a guy like Dennis Schroeder to come in and be the point guard for the Lakers. We're looking at another one here where Zach LaVine has been looked at by the Mavericks. Bringing in another dynamic guard to play along with Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic. Of course, if LaVine goes, it's probably going to be no room for guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. And some of the other players that they have here. So look out for that. But I also believe, I've also called out my own opinion. I think Zach LaVine possibly being looked at by the Milwaukee Bucks for them to keep Giannis Antetokounmpo would be a really intriguing fit. So Zach LaVine is being looked at and possibly being shopped by the Chicago Bulls. I don't think Billy Donovan is probably agreeing to that, but Zach LaVine, look out for his name. We've seen DeMar DeRozan from the San Antonio Spurs, you know, mid-range specialist, Kobe Bryant disciple, you know, a guy who plays, you know, really different from, you know, most of the guys right now. He's of that old school era where it's about getting the ball into the zone, dunking on people, and mid-range fadeaways. And DeMar DeRozan is being looked at by the Lakers as well. He might be on the move for Kyle Kuzma and Danny Green. You know, again, it's just a rumor. It's just one of those things that are out there. Apparently, Victor Oladipo had been I find it really hard to believe. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy, but he's been saying to other opponents and other teams, you know, that he'll be really interested in playing for them. You know, he had been, when he was traded from Oklahoma City to Indiana and was Indiana's main player and became an all-star, Oladipo was loved by Indiana. So I find it really hard to believe that he wants to leave as much as these rumors say, but he apparently wants out, and maybe that might be because of the emergence of TJ Warren, who plays very similar to him, so he might want out. And Drew Holiday seems to be the guy everyone is looking at this offseason. A lot of teams are looking out for his services. I don't think Stan Van Gundy will want that, because he is such a solid and well-respected player defensively, offensively, and you know, I think him staying with the Pelicans makes them even more of a contender than they were last year if they're healthy. But you know, he's being looked at by the Hawks, and also there's been trade rumors about Danny Ainge in Boston making a swap for Drew Holiday and Kemba Walker. And we've seen Danny Ainge do this. Remember Isaiah Thomas, who's now out of the league? You know, he just traded a guy who was really good for him and was loved in Boston, and just shipped him out for someone who he thought was better. So Kemba Walker possibly could be on the move. You know, he had a really good season, progressing to the Eastern Conference Finals with the Celtics, and you know, having his first taste of winning at that level. And it's even possible now that he might be on the block by Danny Ainge. So let's see what happens there. So Drew Holiday, Kevin Love, Dennis Schroeder, Zach LaVine, DeRozan, Oladipo, and we have, of course, Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So these are the names to look out for in this off season. We have, like I said, the free agency markets opening up on November 20th, alongside the NBA draft. Of course, a lot of trades happen during the draft night. So change again. Episode of change. There's a lot of change coming up, and we should get ready for it, because the NBA landscape, not just the games played and how they will be played and whether or not fans will be involved, the NBA landscape is about to change. So you know, just don't be naive. It's not going to be the same. You know what I mean? So you know, there's also a couple of ones I needed to mention here. Apparently Gordon Hayward wants out. LaMarcus Aldridge is being looked at by the Lakers. And I mentioned Rondo to the Clippers. So there's a lot, you know, there's a lot coming up in this off season for this new NBA season coming up. So yeah, let's look out. It's going to be really, really interesting. And this is the end of segment 2. So I'll just do another promo read. So we have another sister website that I've been sitting on for a little while. I've been looking to kind of get it started, but I think, you know, probably now is the right time. And it's a site called Expose the Soul, and it's, you know, I'll just go straight off into the read. So are you a massive sneakerhead? Do you love shoes? Do you love sneakers and basketball shoes as much as I do? If you're a massive sneakerhead, do sneakers in general play a huge part in your identity? You could answer that question for yourself. Well, why not check out the upcoming Expose the Soul series, where we explore the souls and favorite kicks of some people with a huge love for what's on their feet. So follow Expose the Soul at Expose the Soul on Twitter, and expose the soul on Instagram, with the first episode coming really soon. I will say that, you know, is going to be really interesting. This is something that I'm trying out, and I think, you know, the content in there will be really funny and really cool. So if you know about my sister website, The Actors Post, we do a lot of interviews with people of the entertainment industry, talking about their, you know, love and challenges and trials and tribulations that they've experienced within the acting industry. This is me going on into another love of mine, extending from basketball and shoes. And, you know, we're going to speak to people about shoes and, you know, their collections and what they love, shoes they like, and that sort of stuff. So Expose the Soul coming up really soon. So follow at Expose the Soul on Twitter and at xex.posethesoul on Instagram. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen.